Welcome to Cash Flow Analysis Week. This week's session and exercise is where the debt-free millionaire system gets a little personal for me. And this is because what you're about to discover is something I had to learn and create on my own while working with thousands of people who are looking for help with their debt. Now, in this session, you're going to learn what the cash flow analysis is and why you need one. Earlier, I touched on the cash flow analysis, and now I want to take a moment to explain it in a little bit more detail. So think of it this way. What would happen if I was on my way to pay you a visit and I missed a turn and had to call you for directions? The first question you would ask me is, where are you right now? And you would ask me that question because until you could pinpoint exactly where I was with some degree of accuracy, you wouldn't be able to give me any directions to the destination. And let's say if I just said, I'm on Main Street. You'd be like, okay, but we're on Main Street because Main Street runs north and south for miles and miles. And unless I could give you a cross street, like an intersection, you wouldn't know if I needed to go this way or that way. Those same rules apply here. When we began, we talked about your wealth potential being a place where your debt's completely paid off and you own everything in your possession. And those thousands of dollars in monthly debt payments are now available for personal wealth accumulation. Wealth that one day will generate enough interest income for you to live off of, and your time and your life are yours to do with what you want. That is the destination that is out there just waiting for you. But how you get there requires that you take the time to discover where the heck you're starting from financially. You're putting the debt-free millionaire system in place because you're coming to me asking me how to get you to your wealth potential destination. And for me to get you moving towards that destination, we need to determine what financial intersection you're starting from. And the intersection you need to pinpoint is where you are at the corner of what's coming in, what's going out, so that you know what's left over. And you need to know what's left over if it's north or south of zero. Okay, now in this session, what I'm going to walk you through is the logic behind the cash flow analysis, and we'll be using the Fortunato family numbers so you can get an idea of how it works. And when it comes to the cash flow analysis for yourself, there are a few pointers here that you should know. First, numbers don't lie. You may be surprised at the results you generate with the analysis, and by results I mean if you're north or if you're south of zero. If you're north of zero, which means you've got money left over after everything's paid every month, that's great. There are a specific set of directions that you'll use starting from your north of zero starting point. And you're going to follow those directions to your personal wealth potential. If you're south of zero, which means you're unable to pay all your bills each month with the money that you bring home for that month, whatever you do, don't worry. While being south of zero is obviously not the best place to be, it is most certainly not the end of the world. You'll just need a different set of directions, and you'll discover what those directions are if you need them. The most important thing is to do your analysis accurately and decisively so that you can honestly pinpoint where you are financially right now. Because pinpointing that location is essential to ensuring that you begin to take the right path towards your ultimate destination, achieving your wealth potential. A quick note on the results of your cash flow analysis as they relate to your credit. If your results are positive, then the directions you'll be taking should also have a positive initial impact on your credit. If your results are negative, then it's very possible that those negative results that you generate from your cash flow analysis could also be casting a negative reflection on your credit. Think about that for a moment. A negative result means you're probably unable to keep up with your monthly payments. Now that you understand what factors are used to generate your credit score, and you've learned how to define credit, which is your credit score is a reflection of your credit report, and your credit report is a reflection of your financial circumstances and behavior over a period of time, you should be able to understand that the inability to satisfy your monthly obligations probably means that, first, if you're unable to make all of your payments on time, and if that's accurate, it may only be a matter of time before that robbing Peter to pay Paul scenario kind of unravels. Remember, paying your bills on time makes up about 35% of how your credit score is generated. Second, when you're running behind each month, it's probably accurate to assume that you're really not increasing the spread between the original amount of credit that you've been extended and the balance that you owe. And remember, increasing that spread, which means you're lowering the balance, it impacts your credit score by about 30% of how it's generated. So if you're running behind each month, it's possible that about 65% of how your credit score is being generated could very well be in jeopardy. If this is the case, then there are a few things you can try to do. First, review your living expenses and see if there's any fat that you can trim. There's a document in this week's resources section that you can download, and it will provide you with a couple dozen ideas that maybe you hadn't thought about before. Second, if there is fat to trim, that's great. You'll learn what to do with that newfound money in the next session. If not, again, don't worry about it. One of the things I've learned in my experience working with so many people is that people have already kind of gone through their expenses with a fine-tooth comb. And if you've done that and there's no fat to trim, you have successfully pinpointed your financial starting point. And you'll just have a different set of directions to follow. And third, review your debt balances and see if there are any smaller balances that you might be able to pay off in just a few months. Doing this will free up the monthly payment for that debt and create some cash flow relief. Okay, let's go through the cash flow analysis using the Fortunato family numbers together so you can see the logic, and then it'll be your turn. At first blush, the CFA looks and feels like a budget, but the purpose of the CFA is much different. Remember from the budgeting myth session where we talked about how, well, most people, when they use a budget, they do it to just ensure that they can pay all of their bills. And that by focusing on the bottom number of the budget, they overlook the most important number, the one at the top, their income. The purpose of the CFA isn't just to be sure that all of your bills are getting paid, but to begin the process of using the income from your job or career to replace the income from your job or career. To do that, you first have to focus on completely eliminating all debt payments because it's those debt payments and interest payments that are corroding your income from the inside out because of the hundreds and hundreds or maybe even the thousands of dollars you're paying each month to the creditors by way of all of those interest payments. To do this, let's take another look at the Fortunato numbers. Now, you've seen these before. Now, they have the $4,600 in net monthly income, $1,600 in monthly living expenses. They have their mortgage payment of $1,335, and they have their two cars, each with a payment of $452 and $386 each month. And finally, they have their credit card payments totaling $402 each month. This leaves them with $425 left over. And like we said before, most people would think that having this kind of positive cash flow would be fabulous. And well, it is, if you use it to eliminate all of these debt payments, the $2,575, because once those debt payments have been completely eliminated, the $2,575 plus the $425, it totals $3,000 in total monthly positive cash flow. Another powerful benefit of eliminating your debt so quickly is that you'll save thousands and thousands of dollars in interest payments. In the Fortunato example, they save about $150,000 in interest payments. And later, using those numbers, I'm going to show you just how the debt elimination process is perhaps the most powerful investment strategy. Just wait until you see those numbers. Also, if your cash flow determines that you're falling behind each month, you're going to learn how to use the proper debt relief strategy to transform that negative cash flow into positive cash flow and still become completely debt-free faster than you ever thought possible. The key is to know how to interpret the results of your cash flow analysis and be able to determine what kind of help, if any, your cash flow requires. Another important note about debt relief services. Federal law requires that when you're in the process of interviewing them to see if they can help you, they must disclose to you that their service may have a negative impact on your credit. But as we've covered just a little while ago, negative cash flow also can have a negative impact on your credit. What I want you to know is a simple little fact that debt relief services are forbidden to tell you by federal law. And that simple little fact is that while you're on their service may have a negative impact on your credit. But once you've completed their service and you've improved your personal cash flow, your credit can begin to recover, and this is something I call the credit rebound. However, because the way some federal laws are written, debt relief services can't provide that information and still perform the service for you the way they need to. Now, I'm telling you this because if you're considering a debt relief service, or if you're on one now and your credit has taken a hit, you shouldn't worry too much about it. As long as you execute the recovery plan like the one the Debt-Free Millionaire System provides. You have to consider that what you're doing is working on your personal financial environment. If you're looking for help from a debt relief service, it's probably because you have personal cash flow problems. Or if you've already enrolled in a debt relief service, you are having personal cash flow problems, and that service is helping you turn negative cash flow into positive cash flow. So remember, what you're learning here about understanding debt and credit, your credit score is a reflection of your credit report, and your credit report is a reflection of your personal financial circumstances and behavior over a period of time. During the period you're on a debt relief service, that service may have a negative impact on your score. But the purpose of that service was to get you on the path to improving your personal financial circumstances and behavior so that after that period is over with and you've completed the service, you'll be able to begin to cast a sustainable positive reflection. Make sense? In the next session, we'll walk through how to do your very own cash flow analysis online, and from there, how to set up your cash flow dashboard. The next session is becoming debt-free, and I've combined the CFA and the dashboard setup into one session because it simply works more effectively that way. Completing your very own accurate cash flow analysis is the most important thing you can do to begin that remedying process that we talked about before. Most people know where they want to go, and they can even have some idea about how to get there. But unless you know where you're starting from, how are you going to know what directions to follow? Once you've taken the time and pinpointed your current financial position in the next session, you need to know that achieving your personal wealth potential isn't necessarily dependent on having a positive result. Now, sure, if you're experiencing healthy, positive cash flow, that's a better place to start from. But if your results are negative, that's when discovering the right kind of help can help you get on the path that leads to a few different things. First, regaining control over your personal finances. Second, finding the right kind of help to turn negative cash flow into positive cash flow. And third, learning how to completely eliminate all of your debt, even if your cash flow is negative. And finally, getting on the path to accumulating real wealth. In the next coaching session, we'll walk through how to do your very own cash flow analysis online, and from there, how to set up your cash flow dashboard. The online cash flow analysis and the cash flow dashboard are the two most powerful tools you'll be using to navigate your way from where you are now to the point of accumulating real wealth. So finish the rest of this week's exercises and then get ready to get on your way to becoming completely debt-free.